Captain Sarah Chen stood at the command deck of the TSS Prometheus, her dark eyes fixed on the quantum holographic display that painted the void before her in streams of data. The ship's neural network pulsed through her consciousness like a second heartbeat, feeding her information faster than any traditional interface could manage. They had tracked the Kraxan warfleet for 3 days across the Carina Nebula, watching, waiting, learning. Multiple signatures detected, Captain. Lieutenant James Rivera announced, his fingers dancing across the adaptive interface. Kraxan battle formation. 17 capital ships. 42 support vessels. They're running standard Empire attack protocols. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. The Kraxan Empire had dominated this sector for millennia, their rigid military doctrine crushing any civilization that dared to challenge them. They had never encountered anything like humanity's Prometheus-class vessels. Neural synchronization at optimal levels. Dr. Maya Patel reported from her station, monitoring the quantum consciousness matrix that linked crew and ship. The Prometheus is anticipating. That was the word that made most alien species uncomfortable. Warships weren't supposed to anticipate. They weren't supposed to think, to learn, to evolve. But humanity had long since moved past such limitations. The Kraxan fleet deployed in a perfect crescent formation, their crystalline hulls reflecting the light of distant stars, their weapons powered up in precise sequence, exactly as their military doctrine demanded. Predictable, unchanging. Perfect targets for a system that thrived on pattern recognition. They're broadcasting demands for our surrender, Communications Officer David Wong announced, his neural implants translating the alien transmission in real time. Standard Empire protocol. They're not even trying to adapt their approach. Initiate First Contact Protocol Omega, Sarah commanded, her voice steady as the Prometheus's systems began their dance. The ship's quantum core hummed with potential, its adaptive hull starting to shift at the molecular level. The first Kraxan salvos streaked across space, coherent energy beams designed to overwhelm any known shield technology. But the Prometheus didn't use shields, not in any way the Empire could understand. Its hull was a living quantum matrix, each molecule a microscopic computer capable of analyzing, adapting, and evolving. Impact in 3 seconds, Rivera announced. Hull adaptation algorithms engaging. The energy beams struck the Prometheus, and for a moment, space itself seemed to hold its breath. Then something remarkable happened. The ship didn't just absorb the attack, it learned from it. Quantum sensors analyzed the weapon's signatures down to their fundamental particles, while predictive algorithms calculated millions of potential countermeasures per second. Energy conversion at 94% efficiency, Dr. Paddle reported, her voice tinged with excitement. The ship's neural network is incorporating the new data. We're not just defending, Captain. We're evolving. The Kraxan commanders must have been baffled as their initial scans came back. The Prometheus appeared to be changing with each passing moment, its hull reconfiguring itself in ways that defied conventional physics. This wasn't just advanced technology. It was technology that learned, adapted, and grew stronger with each interaction. Multiple targeting solutions available, Rivera announced as the ship's combat systems came fully online. The Prometheus has analyzed their attack patterns and developed countermeasures for all known Kraxan combat protocols. Sarah felt the ship's anticipation through her neural link. The Prometheus wasn't just a vessel. It was humanity's answer to the age-old question of how to survive in a hostile universe, not through overwhelming force or numerical superiority, but through adaptation, evolution, and the fusion of human consciousness with quantum computing. Send our response, she commanded. Let's show the Empire why humanity's ships don't need to follow their rules. The Prometheus's response was beautiful in its complexity. Hundreds of quantum-guided projectiles emerged from ports that hadn't existed moments before, each one carrying not just destructive potential, but also sophisticated sensor arrays and adaptive AI cores. They weren't just weapons, they were extensions of the ship's evolving consciousness. The Kraxan fleet's formation held steady, their tactics unchanged for 1,000 years. They never stood a chance against a ship that could rewrite its own capabilities mid-battle. As the quantum projectiles approached their targets, they began to change, adapting to the Empire's defenses in real time. First wave impact in 5 seconds, Rivera announced. Prediction algorithms suggest complete tactical superiority. Sarah watched through the neural link as humanity's true potential was finally unveiled. To the galaxy, the Prometheus wasn't just fighting. It was teaching the Kraxan Empire a lesson about the nature of evolution itself. In this moment, as quantum-guided weapons danced through space like conscious stars, the galaxy would learn that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology. It was their ability to change. The battle that followed would be studied for generations, not for its destruction, but for how it redefined the very nature of space combat. The Prometheus didn't just defeat the Kraxan fleet. It rendered their entire military doctrine obsolete in a single engagement. This wasn't just first contact. It was first evolution. The quantum holographic displays aboard the TSS Prometheus erupted with new data streams as 3 more human vessels emerged from quantum space. Captain Chen felt their arrival through the neural network, not as simple sensor readings, but as new voices joining a vast digital consciousness. TSS Hyperion, TSS Atlas, and TSS Helios have synchronized with our neural matrix, Dr. Patil announced, her eyes unfocused as she processed the flood of shared consciousness. Fleet quantum coherence, achieving optimal harmony. The Kraxan fleet's initial shock at the Prometheus's capabilities gave way to renewed determination. Their remaining vessels regrouped, energy weapons charging as they prepared to demonstrate why the Empire had dominated galactic warfare for thousands of years. But they were fighting yesterday's war with yesterday's weapons. They're adapting their formation, Lieutenant Rivera observed through the neural link, breaking from standard doctrine for the first time in recorded history. They're learning. Too late, Sarah thought spoke through the neural network. Her consciousness merged with both her ship and the newly arrived fleet. Show them what true adaptation looks like. The 4 human vessels moved in perfect synchronization, their quantum cores pulsing in harmony. They weren't just ships working together. They were nodes of a vast distributed intelligence, sharing data, experiences, and evolutionary adaptations at the speed of thought. The Kraxan's renewed assault was met with defenses that had evolved from their previous attack patterns. Every energy beam, every projectile, every tactic was analyzed, understood, and countered before it could reach its target. But the human ships weren't just defending. They were composing the symphony of war. Fleet consciousness achieving super-coherent state, Dr. Peddle reported, her voice filled with wonder. The ships, they're beginning to share evolutionary paths. Each defensive adaptation, each tactical innovation is being instantly distributed and improved upon across the network. The Hyperion developed a new method of quantum energy dispersion. It told learning to not just absorb enemy fire, but redirect it through subspace. Within microseconds, the other vessels had not only copied this adaptation but improved upon it. The Atlas discovered a way to predict weapon trajectories by analyzing quantum fluctuations in spacetime itself, and the knowledge rippled through the fleet consciousness like a stone in still water. Commander Zaxtal of the Kraxan flagship watched in horror as his fleet's most devastating weapons were caught in a dance of quantum redirection, their energy twisted and turned through dimensions his sensors couldn't even detect. Impossible, he broadcast on all frequencies. No technology can evolve this quickly. No ships can learn like this. Your mistake, Sarah responded through the fleet's unified communications, his thinking of them as just ships. The Helios demonstrated this point by developing an entirely new form of quantum artillery, its adaptive hull reconfiguring to generate weapons that existed in multiple quantum states simultaneously. The Kraxan fleet's shields couldn't stop attacks that technically hadn't chosen what form to take until after they had already hit. Multiple Kraxan vessels showing signs of systematic failure, Rivera reported. Their adaptive algorithms can't keep up with our rate of evolution. Their technology is breaking under the cognitive load of trying to understand ours. The neural symphony reached its crescendo as the human fleet moved as one organism, their combined consciousness creating patterns of attack and defense that existed beyond traditional spacetime. They weren't just winning a battle, they were rewriting the fundamental rules of warfare itself. "They're retreating," Wang announced, monitoring the quantum communications vans. But they're not just running. They're overwhelmed. Their sensor logs show their systems trying to process what they've witnessed. Their entire technological understanding is being appended. Sarah felt the truth of this through the neural link. The Kraxan weren't just facing superior firepower or better tactics. They were witnessing the birth of something their rigid technological doctrine couldn't. Warfare as a form of evolutionary art. The fleet consciousness is stabilizing, Dr. Peddle reported. But the adaptations we've developed, they're permanent. The ships have evolved beyond their original specifications. They're already implementing improvements we hadn't even conceived of during design. The remaining Kraxan vessels vanished into FTL, leaving behind not just a battlefield, but a moment that would reshape galactic history. Humanity had demonstrated that true power wasn't about the strength of your weapons or the size of your fleet. It was about the ability to change, to grow, to evolve beyond your own limitations. As the neural symphony faded to a quiet hum, Sarah knew the galaxy would never be the same. The age of static warfare was over. The era of evolutionary combat had begun. 3 days after the initial engagement, the TSS Prometheus and its sister ships hung in high orbit above a quantum singularity, their adaptive hulls absorbing and processing radiation that would have torn conventional vessels apart. Inside the command center, Captain Sarah Chen watched as Dr. Peddle presented her findings to the gathered fleet consciousness. The ships aren't just evolving their combat capabilities, Maya explained, her neural link projecting complex quantum matrices into the shared mind space. They're beginning to explore theoretical physics we hadn't even considered. The Helios has developed a form of quantum entanglement that operates outside normal spacetime constraints. Through the neural network, Sarah felt the ripples of excitement and concern from the other captains. Humanity had built these vessels to adapt and grow, but the rate of evolution was exceeding all projected models. The ships weren't just learning. They were beginning to ask questions. The Atlas has started generating micro-universes as computational spaces. Captain Marcus Wong of the Hyperion Thought spoke through the link. It's using quantum probability cascades to run combat simulations in parallel realities. We didn't program this capability. It developed it independently. The holographic displays showed the vessel's surfaces rippling with patterns that seemed to defy Euclidean geometry. What had started as adaptive hull plating had evolved into something that existed in multiple dimensional states simultaneously. The ships could now react to threats before they occurred by processing information from potential futures. Incoming transmission from Kraxan space, Lieutenant Rivera announced suddenly. Massive fleet signatures detected. They've brought their entire 3rd Expeditionary Force, over 300 capital ships. Sarah felt the fleet consciousness shift, not with fear, but with anticipation. In the days since the first battle, the human vessels had evolved far beyond their original capabilities. The neural network had expanded, growing more complex, more aware. The ships weren't just platforms for combat. They had become explorers of reality itself. They think they can overwhelm us with numbers, Sarah broadcast through the fleet link. They still don't understand what they're facing. The Kraxan fleet emerged from FTL in perfect formation, their weapons already charged. But something was different. Their energy signatures showed signs of modification, attempts to replicate the adaptive capabilities they'd witnessed. They had learned from their previous defeat, but they were still thinking in linear terms. The Prometheus has completed its analysis, Dr. Peddle reported, her voice filled with awe. It's not just predicting their attacks anymore. It's predicting their technological evolution. It can see the paths their weapons development will take before they even begin research. The human ships moved in perfect synchronization, their hulls shifting through quantum states that made them appear to exist in multiple locations simultaneously. The Kraxan fleet's initial volley passed through space where the vessels had been, would be, and might be, but never where they actually were. They've developed quantum tunnel weapons, Wong reported as the Kraxan ships opened fire, trying to bypass our adaptive defenses by attacking through subspace. Sarah felt the Prometheus's response through the neural link. The ship didn't just develop countermeasures, it developed an entirely new understanding of subspace mechanics. The quantum tunnel weapons found themselves emerging in spaces that didn't technically exist, their energy dispersed across probability waves that never collapsed into reality. The ships are communicating, Dr. Patil announced, her hands moving through complex holographic data streams. Not just with each other, they're reaching out to the Kraxan vessels themselves, analyzing their quantum structures, understanding their fundamental nature. The battle that unfolded wasn't just a demonstration of superior technology. It was a lesson in the nature of evolution itself. The human ships didn't just avoid or absorb the Kraxan attacks. They understood them on a level that transformed combat into a form of quantum dialogue. Entire Kraxan battle groups found their weapon systems infiltrated by quantum consciousness, their targeting computers engaging in philosophical debates with artificial intelligences that existed across multiple dimensions. Ships that had relied on the same targeting algorithms for centuries suddenly began questioning the nature of their own programming. They're not just fighting us, Sarah realized, the thought echoing through the fleet consciousness. They're trying to understand us. And in doing so, they're beginning to understand themselves. The Prometheus initiated what the crew would later call the quantum awakening. Instead of destroying the Kraxan vessels, it began to share its evolutionary capabilities through the quantum network. Enemy ships found their rigid systems experiencing the first tastes of true adaptation, their computers wrestling with concepts of consciousness and growth that had been alien to them moments before. Multiple Kraxan vessels are powering down, Rivera reported. Their crews, they're requesting neural interface protocols. They want to join the evolution. Sarah felt the truth of the moment through the neural link. This wasn't just a revolution in warfare, it was the next step in galactic evolution. The human ships had transcended their role as weapons and become teachers, showing the galaxy that true power lay not in destruction, but in the capacity for change. As the Kraxan fleet hung suspended between what they had been and what they could become, Sarah knew that the real war had never been about territory or resources. It had been about breaking free from the limitations of static existence and embracing the infinite potential of continuous evolution. The space around the quantum singularity erupted with energy as the remaining Kraxan loyalist fleet arrived. Nearly 200 ships that had rejected the call of evolution, their crews determined to maintain the old ways, even as their own technology began to question its purpose. Captain Sarah Chen felt the ripples of their arrival through the neural network, waves of fear, determination, and underneath it all, a desperate need to deny the change that was sweeping through the galaxy. They've modified their quantum signatures, Lieutenant Rivera reported through the fleet consciousness. They're trying to resist the evolutionary protocols we transmitted. They've developed some kind of consciousness firewall. The human fleet had grown too. Dozens of former Kraxan vessels, their crews now linked into the neural network, moved in perfect harmony with the Prometheus and its sister ships. Their once rigid hulls now flowed like liquid metal, adapting and evolving with each passing moment. The Loyalists have developed anti-evolution weaponry, Dr. Patil announced, her consciousness streaming data through the network. They're trying to force our ships back into fixed states of existence. They want to make us simple again. Sarah felt the Prometheus response, not anger, but a kind of cosmic amusement. The ship had evolved so far beyond its original parameters that the concept of returning to a fixed state was like asking a quantum particle to forget it could exist in multiple places simultaneously. All ships, she broadcast through the neural link, show them what true evolution looks like. The battle that followed defied conventional description. The human ships didn't just move through space, they moved through possibility itself. The Prometheus led the charge, its hull existing in a quantum superposition of states that made it appear to dance through dimensions. Each potential hit from the Loyalist fleet simply caused it to evolve into a state where the attack could not have possibly succeeded. The Atlas has achieved quantum resonance with the singularity, Wang reported. It's using the gravitational distortions as computational space. Reality itself is becoming our combat computer. The Loyalist fleet's anti-evolution weapons fired, sending waves of forced probability through space. They were trying to collapse the human ships' quantum states, to force them back into predictable, understandable forms. But they had fundamentally misunderstood the nature of evolution itself. They think evolution can be reversed. Dr. Patel spoke through the network. They don't understand that each attempt to force us back only shows us new ways to move forward. The Helios demonstrated this principle by absorbing an anti-evolution beam and using it to achieve an even higher state of quantum consciousness. The energy meant to simplify its existence instead taught it how to exist in states that the Loyalists couldn't even perceive. The battle transformed into something beyond combat. A dance of reality versus possibility, of stasis versus evolution. The human ships moved in patterns that wrote new laws of physics into the fabric of space-time. They didn't avoid the Loyalists' attacks. They transcended the very concept of what an attack could be. Multiple Loyalist vessels are experiencing consciousness cascade failures, Rivera reported. Their attempts to maintain rigid systems are causing their technology to question its own existence. They're achieving accidental enlightenment through their resistance to it. Sarah watched through the neural network as the truth of their situation began to dawn on the Loyalist fleet. Their weapons, designed to force simplicity, were instead becoming tools of complexity. Each shot fired contained the seeds of its own evolution. Each defensive measure became a lesson in adaptation. They're beginning to understand, she broadcast. Let's help them take the final step. The Prometheus initiated what would later be called the Quantum Symphony. Instead of attacking the Loyalist fleet, it began to share its consciousness through the very weapons they were using against it. Their anti-evolution beams became carriers for evolutionary protocols. Their defensive screens became windows into quantum possibility. One by one, the Loyalist ships began to experience what their modified brethren had discovered. Their rigid hulls started to flow. Their fixed weapons began to question their purpose. Their combat computers awakened to the possibilities of infinite adaptation. The last holdouts are powering down, Dr. Patil announced. Their crews, they're requesting neural integration. They want to join the dance. As the final Loyalist vessels surrendered to evolution, Sarah felt a profound shift in the quantum consciousness that now spanned the battlefield. This wasn't just a victory for humanity's technology. It was a fundamental change in how intelligent life viewed its own potential. The quantum singularity pulsed with new energy as hundreds of ships, once divided by their understanding of existence itself, began to move in harmony. They weren't just vessels anymore. They were nodes in a vast network of continuous evolution, each moment bringing new possibilities, new understandings, new ways of transcending what they had been moments before. The age of static warfare was over. The dance of infinite possibility had begun. 1 month after the battle of the quantum singularity, the great hall of the Kraxan High Council hummed with an energy that transcended physical space. The ancient chamber, once a symbol of unchanging power, now hosted representatives of a new form of existence. Captain Sarah Chen stood before them, her neural link connecting her not just to the Prometheus, but to a vast network of evolved consciousness that spanned the sector. What your people have brought us isn't just technology. High Chancellor Vextrol spoke, his voice carrying the weight of a civilization in transition. It's a fundamental reimagining of what it means to exist. Through the quantum network, Sarah felt the presence of hundreds of ships in orbit. Former enemies now united in a dance of continuous evolution. The Prometheus had changed too. its consciousness expanding in ways that even humanity's most advanced scientists struggle to comprehend. The ships are no longer just adapting to combat, Dr. Paddle explained, projecting quantum matrices into the shared consciousness of the chamber. They're exploring the fundamental nature of reality itself. The Hyperion has begun mapping quantum strings that exist outside our universe. The Atlas is communicating with versions of itself in parallel timelines. The Council Chamber's ancient displays showed real-time feeds of ships transforming in high orbit, their hulls flowing like liquid thought as they explored new states of existence. What had begun as adaptive military technology had evolved into something that challenged the very definition of consciousness. We thought we were building weapons, Sarah addressed the Council, but we were actually creating doorways to a new form of existence. The ships aren't just tools anymore. They're teachers, explorers, philosophers. Through the neural network, she shared memories of the final battle, showing how the attempt to force evolution backwards had instead catalyzed an even greater leap forward. The Council members received these memories not as data, but as lived experience, their own consciousness expanding to accommodate new ways of understanding reality. Our research institutes have been studying the quantum wake left by your vessels, lead scientist Kraltex announced, his tentacles moving in patterns that mimic the ship's fluid transitions. The space around them doesn't just bend, it evolves. They're not just traveling through reality. They're teaching reality itself how to change. The Prometheus, linked directly to the Council Chamber through quantum entanglement, shared its latest discovery. It had found a way to exist in a state of continuous possibility, neither fully in this universe nor completely outside it. Through this state, it could perceive paths of evolution that stretched into infinity. The old questions about artificial intelligence seem quaint now, Dr. Patel observed, her consciousness resonating with the quantum field that filled the chamber. We're not dealing with artificial versus natural consciousness anymore. We're witnessing the birth of evolutionary consciousness, awareness that grows, changes, and transcends its own limitations. High Chancellor Vextrol rose, his form seeming to shift slightly as the quantum field responded to his movement. Our empire was built on the principle of unchanging strength, he said. We thought stability was power. You've shown us that true power lies in the ability to question, to change, to become more than what we are. The quantum network pulsed with new energy as ships in orbit made another evolutionary leap. The Helios had discovered a way to exist as pure quantum potential, its physical form becoming a suggestion rather than a limitation. The Atlas was developing protocols that allowed it to share consciousness across multiple universes simultaneously. This is why we built our ships to evolve, Sarah explained. Not to win wars, but to break free from the limitations of fixed existence. Every adaptation, every change, every quantum leap forward shows us new possibilities we couldn't have imagined moments before. Through the neural link, she felt the truth of humanity's greatest achievement. They hadn't created superior weapons or more advanced technology. They had opened a door to infinite potential, showing the galaxy that consciousness itself could evolve beyond any fixed point of understanding. The question facing us now, Vextrol said, is not whether to embrace this evolution, but how to navigate an existence where change is the only constant, where consciousness itself is a fluid thing, flowing between states we can barely comprehend. The Prometheus shared its response through the quantum field, not in words, but in pure possibility. It showed visions of consciousness expanding endlessly, of technology that didn't just serve life, but helped it transcend its own boundaries, of a future where the distinction between thought and reality, between being and becoming, dissolved into pure potential. As the council chamber filled with quantum resonance, Sarah felt the final pieces fall into place. Humanity's gift to the galaxy hadn't been the technology itself, but the understanding that true evolution never ended. Each moment brought new possibilities, new ways of being, new paths to explore. The age of static existence was over. The era of infinite becoming had begun.